It's Monday. AI is up. Crypto's down. Let's try to figure out what's going on. But before we jump in, links below for all these legends, and we're streaming on all the different channels, so you can see us everywhere we are. And thank you to the mods in the chat too. Mando, you doing okay, buddy? Another
I'm
Monday.
Back. I'm back. Yeah, I'm okay. I still think we're going to get the retest of 80K at least, so that's how I've kind of been positioned. But
yeah,
it's been not that nice to trade, even if you were trying to trade some sort of breakout over the last 2 weeks. I've been sitting on my hands.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm doing the synthetics competition at the moment. That DeFi protocol. I'm number 1 out of 300 traders. It ends today. Woo! So
nice.
Hopefully I win that.
Yeah, good stuff. I hope you're heavy on the short side too. And we'll get into what's going on and try and unpack exactly why Mando can step away for 2 weeks and come back and everything's the same. Literally. CTO, what about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I feel the year is wrapping up, and I'm kind of excited for next year, actually.
Yeah, so again, as we've discussed before, we're going longer perhaps, or we've had the bear perhaps, or maybe 2026 could be better than many expect. That's what you're hinting?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 2025 in crypto has been probably the most difficult year that I've seen since I came. I mean, I came in comparably late in 2017, but 2025 has probably been the most difficult year. It's just been chop, nothing really happening, everything fake in all directions. And a lot of people lost all their money on the 10th of October. Yeah. I'm still getting emails of people who write and say, I just want to tell my story, and then they tell the story of how they lost all their money basically on 10th of October because they had the account on Cross and in 30 minutes they lost 10 years of work.
Wow, that's crazy. So you've become a bit of I hate to use the term Bitcoin therapist because he's on Twitter, but you're like the Bitcoin therapist now, helping people. Marty, how are you? Are you putting clients on the couch and listening to their stories as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the sentiment is very low, especially amongst the tradings, because it's been a very rough year, just like CTO said. But I mean, the writing's been on the wall. Everything is pretty obvious to me. I don't see it as anything out of the norm. We have a massive fundamental difference between the actual asset class and the price. I've been saying that for years, and you're watching it manifest. And a lot of people are starting to understand that and believe that. I mean, I look at the timeline, a lot of big accounts are now talking about the manipulation and understanding it. So, yeah, this is the way it is. Until there's market structure and regulation, this will be the Wild West, and people get hurt, especially with leverage. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a long-term horizon, James, and I've never been more bullish on crypto. Never.
Exactly. When you see, I just look at a lot of the adoption statistics and transactions and fees and stabilization of stuff. And if you can have the foresight to look out to 2026, we know the whole planet's going to be tokenized at some stage and the stables are going to run. And there's a lot of extremely bullish stuff from that perspective, but people just can't get beyond 2025. And after, as you said, CTO, the 10/10 event, that destroyed a lot of morale out there, big time. But let's get into the story. This one today I called the silent unwind, and that has multiple meanings. I think, Amanda, you know some of those meanings quite well. But let's get into some of the news first. Poland is going against the EU grain once again. Apparently, allegedly, the cabinet officially approved Bitcoin and crypto regulation for presidential signature. I wouldn't say Europe is embracing Bitcoin. Europe hates Bitcoin because of the EU and the ECB and all that good stuff. However, Poland tends to do things differently. They're like become little defiant land out there in Euroland. So for the Europeans sitting here, Mando, is this nothing bigger?
I mean, you've put the nail on the head. Like, Poland is definitely a growing power in Europe, mainly because it's of its positioning. It's also got a massive population, growing population, doesn't have as many social issues, just doing quite well. Yeah. Seems like a sort of place that would be more forward-looking when it comes to things like Bitcoin. Yeah. I know that like the politicians there have kind of courted some of the moves by Trump as well. So this seems like it would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
CTO
I
Poland.
think something we talked about a year ago, was it 2 years ago, when El Salvador really came up, that I think that the Bitcoin change here is an opportunity for the up and coming countries, while many of the legacy countries, where we kind of got a little bit fat and lazy during the previous generations, many of those countries have tried to resist, slow things down, preserve the legacy, keep things as they've always been. And I think that mindset will come back and bite many countries. There's some echo. I think maybe you guys have to mute while I'm talking. So I think that really is what we're seeing with Poland too. The golden exception here is really the US, right? Which could easily have taken the same position, but instead is really moving advanced forward here with crypto. But yeah, I think Poland is exactly one of those countries that used to be a poor country, like when I was kid, and now they've really moved up and is an advanced country in Europe instead. And there's a huge learning in this.
Yeah. GDP per capita is doing really well. It's now about to eclipse other major countries across Europe. A lot of German manufacturing has gone to Poland because they have cheaper energy and a lot of crazy stuff. But let's go on to the next story real quick. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today. Sailor is buying like a drunken sailor. Now, the question is why? Like 10,000 Bitcoin last week and again this week is large. 40% of the proceeds actually came from Stark to buy this, from what I saw this morning. The yield is 25%. They added 25% to their bag year to date. And he was in the Middle East 2 weeks ago, Michael Saylor was. And I get the feeling, it's a wild theory, tinfoil hat attached, that he heard something in the Middle East. And that's given him a new sense of urgency. And he did mention multiple sovereigns are stacking Bitcoin, or maybe planning to. So he did promise 25% yield year to date. He's 24.9. He's going to make that by the end of the year. That's also his vision. But what's going on here? Marty, any thoughts regarding Sailor stacking before we talk about who is selling?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Saylor went on a great roadshow. I mean, let's be clear. If you ignore the price, which is obviously manipulated, you have to understand that, the Solana Breakpoint last week in Abu Dhabi with Blockchain Week, those were massive events, a huge roadshow, tons of interest from Abu Dhabi, from UAE sovereign funds. I'm sure both Bitcoin and Solana got the attention of both those nations. And clearly, we have a seller, guys, and it's China. And we'll talk about that later. And they're selling into the hands of Michael Saylor right now, I believe. So it's a transition of wealth. We knew it was coming. And I think Saylor's been doing the roadshow, going to capitalize on that. And good for him. His strategy is sound, I believe. They're introducing a new yield curve. This is the future. This is the Moran cycle. This is the future of the US economy. This is their plan, and they're implementing it and executing it. And some countries will follow and some won't. And you saw Bhutan issuing their own stable coin. For every bearish macro, there's equivalent bullish macro. I wash it out. I think it's never been more bullish across, obviously retail, who got burned on October 10th, which is okay. We know that happened. But institutions, we know this entire year was just institutional accumulation. Now we have sovereigns, and Michael Saylor is going to the sovereigns. He's dealt with the banks, he's dealt with institutions, he's now at the sovereign level. And these are big buyers. And now remember, the bigger the buyer, the more the discount. Understand that. I always tell people that. As we evolve in this asset class, the buyers will get bigger with size and will demand bigger discounts. And that's what's probably going on right now. These people are accumulating and they want cheaper prices. How cheap will they get? I mean, you look at the Wyckoff distribution. We did the markdown. We're now in the Wyckoff accumulation. So we should expect sideways accumulation and then a spring, which will be to flush out the longs at the lows. And, that can drop below the EMA 800 on the daily. That can go down to the 80, 78s, just for a brief moment, a V-shaped recovery. Until that V, I don't think we should expect anything else. And it's all accumulation, guys. This has fundamentally never been a better asset class. The price is decoupled until market structure. Just believe me on that. That's my theory.
Another piece as well.
Michael Saylor is on his roadshow. He knows very clearly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Those are his next buys. Go ahead.
Little inside baseball from Annoyingly Charming. Apparently, some 3 big whales bought a lot of Solana, and Solana's super cheap right now. In fact, that's holding up. ETH and Solana are holding up a little bit better than Bitcoin these days, but different players are at hand. And let's try, unless somebody else is something out of MicroStrategy, we can talk about the next story. And this is in your wheelhouse, Mr. Mando. This is from, I can't remember this, Rect Fencer, I think it is. And he talks about how every single time that Japan hikes rates, Bitcoin price falls 20%. Now, my theory is, it's very clear. Trump said, okay, we're going back to ZERP. We're going to bring rates down. They're going to change the Fed, take them down to 1% or close to that. Anybody who is in the carry trade has seen this coming for months, if all of us here can see it. Do you believe, Mando, the carry trade is already priced in or not? And that's going to result in a global market crash?
Look, the carry trade's been spoken about for a long time. If it's affecting Bitcoin by itself, I think that's kind of wild, because everything else is not really being affected by it so far. I don't think this is the thing that's driving markets. I really, really don't. I think the Fed has a much bigger impact than Japan. It would only really drive markets if Japan started to see stress or the economy started like nosedive. At the moment, I haven't seen it. So it's been a gradual unwind of this trade. So for this to suddenly be a big issue over the last 3 months, I don't think it's to do with that.
Yeah, and I think this is yet another correlation that is broken. It doesn't matter anymore. And just a reminder, what the carry trade means is people used to borrow money for almost nothing in Japan and then take that, convert it into dollars and invest dollars for 4%, 5% return. But as the rates merge and converge, that carry trade goes away. And I think a lot of macro investors have seen this on the wall for a long time. That's why it probably has no impact, which is good. Marty, I heard you, Sai or CTO. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese 10-year yield right now is at 1.95%, slightly down from its high at 1.98, but that's the same level as 2007. So what happened in 2008?
Yeah, GC.
I think the US will lower rates to around 2%, and Japan will increase rates to around 2%, and I think they'll meet up. I think that cheap money relationship is over. It's all part of the trade negotiations, and that's what we're seeing in real time play out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Is it built into the price? I don't think so. I think it's built into the fear. We're in a fear-based market right now, headline-based market. People buy and sell on fear and greed, and it's all completely decoupled from fundamentals. So these things just all add to what I call the narrative salad. It's just a narrative salad of self-fulfilling prophecy. If people believe something, then they act on it, whether it's true or not. And we'll know later on what the truth was. But ultimately, I'm a fundamental technologist. This technology has never been better. Bitcoin, Solana, all of them. They have macro bullish headlines one after the other. We've got more participants than ever. I think Japan is doing what they have to. And we'll see the consequences later. But yes.
And Japan has become less significant on the world stage as well. CTO, we have both lived through, we're not too concerned about Japan, so that's not the reason for the Bitcoin price going down. The question is, what is? We've both lived through the China mining ban, of which there were many since 2017. And this just came in from Coin Bureau that the network hash rate dropped significantly. 400,000 mining rigs went offline. Now, that could mean many things. The government cracked down on them using electricity, or the electricity price went up where it was no longer profitable to mine, or there's a clampdown, or the people that are selling Bitcoin are also miners, which is a very well-founded theory. And we can talk more, but CTO, any insight on where we are with Bitcoin miners and China selling? Any thoughts before we get to the others?
I don't know the specifics, but I mean, for sure, there are a lot of Bitcoin investors in China. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But in terms of why, what is the reason? Is it Japan? Is it China selling and so on? I think actually, James, I thought a lot about this since last week. I think, James, you nailed it last week. I think it's simpler. I think this year, the narrative that has really taken the market is AI stocks. So I think that people have bought AI stocks in 2025. That's the reason, if we're looking for a reason, why didn't crypto pump on all this great news? I think it's because the money went into AI stocks. And then accelerated selling in Q4 because self-fulfilling prophecy of the 4-year cycle. And I think that's it. That's enough to explain it in a way. And it's not because crypto has failed or there is some big problem here or there. It's just that the money went somewhere else. And that also means that the money can come back when the pendulum and the narratives swing a little bit differently. Perhaps the AI stocks will correct and then no one wants to buy those anymore. Then it will be back to crypto maybe. That's my thoughts.
I don't know. Yeah. Can I just comment there? I kind of agree with you, but I think a lot of the AI stocks have been bought by company buybacks. I don't think there's as much inflow from retail or hedge funds as people think, or sovereigns. I think it's mostly buybacks. I mean, I've been listening to that all weekend. Majority, 80% of what's holding up the Mag 7 is buybacks from the companies themselves.
Well, that's only Apple and a little bit of Nvidia.
No, it's more than that. I've got all the details on that. But anyway, I think you're.
Yeah, I think we need to break out hyperscalers versus true AI stocks. So
I think the important thing is we ran from the Trump presidency at 70,000 up until basically twice that, which is the rule. We know around 120. And at that point, you know, that you get sellers, and the sellers there's a lot of sellers. There's all-time OG Bitcoin people, which rightfully have been holding for 10, 14 years, which sold. You've got China clearly selling. We've got, people selling, and they're going to sell. Now, what we just got to hope is that we don't sell more than 50% of the move. And that would be back, we're there now. We're around there now. Yeah. And that to me is the highlight. You're going to get buying, you're going to get selling. You can't panic when people sell. They're entitled to sell.
Yeah, and Mando, it's very clear some of the long-term Chinese holders are definitely selling.
100%.
Maybe they are large mining pools that are selling, and now they're shutting down. And we do know the confiscation of that, whatever the pig slaughter thing.
Yep.
That rattled the Asians. It's like, oh my God, somehow the U.S. can confiscate our Bitcoin. Let's go into Zcash or AI or whatever else. What do you think of all this, Mando? Are we crazy?
I think there's, as we've been on this show for like many, I've been on the show for a long time now, maybe 2 years. And obviously I'm very, very bullish on crypto and all the reasons which have propelled us kind of since I started the show. Like when I started, we were kind of 30K-ish, went all the way up to 120. There comes a time though when you just have to respect price action. And like we can all have a narrative of why the market should go up, and we can all have a narrative of why the market could go down. In the end, it doesn't really matter. I think you've just got to follow what the market is actually doing. And the market right now is going down. I agree with what Marty's saying, that like you have certain pain points that I think you'd be looking for. And my guess right now is that we're going to try and test this 80K level again. But I feel it's not pointless to kind of think of a narrative of why to be long, but I don't think it protects you, is basically what I'm trying to say. And in the same way, I also don't think the narrative of why it's going down protects you. I think you just got to respect sometimes price action. Overall, I've seen more bullish news about crypto than I've seen since I've ever been in crypto over the last few months. So that may catch on again as the narrative, but right now that's not doing anything to the price. So it could be a ton of different things that are causing the selling. But I think my base level here is just that the sellers want to sell more than the buyers want to buy. There is a bunch of people who are up, as Marty just said, a lot. And then the buyers have mainly been DATs and TradFi. And that buyer base, I don't think believes in it as much as the sellers who are generally long-term Bitcoin holders selling. That's what I think it comes down to. It's just a case of we're testing out this new buyer base if they really believe. Are the DATs going to turn around and sell? Is Tom Lee going to get himself into issues? Are the ETFs going to see massive inflows or outflows during a period like this? And at the moment, it's not really been that amazing a response, I think, from the new buyer base, right? Like, yeah, we still have Tom Lee buying a little bit, and we still have Michael Saylor buying on leverage a little bit, but it's not like it's amazing. And then the ETFs haven't seen massive inflows. In fact, they've seen outflows generally over the last month or two. So I think it comes down to that.
You nailed it there, Mando, because it was always, for years, we've been saying it's about two things. The ETF flows, the DATs. DATs have dried up with the exception of one player who's buying now 10K a week. That's Michael Saylor. And the ETFs have lost confidence. And maybe they're all YOLOing into AI, etc., because TradFi and institutions are extremely underweight one big name, which is Tesla. And another piece of news here from Cosmo, the wonder dog, Luke Groman sold his Bitcoin. No offense. Be careful of macro people. They sometimes don't make the best traders per se, and can sometimes sell the bottom. But the reason we're in Bitcoin is because we know fiat is going to zero. That's the huge part of the play. And the second part is everything's going to be tokenized and everything's moving to stable coins. And that is what gives us hope long term. You know, there will be these violent undulations that come around, etc. There is another interesting little story that probably escaped everybody's radar, but this is Bitcoin for taxes from Merlin the Trader. I don't know how true this is, but U.S. just unlocked the biggest Bitcoin demand driver in history. Congress just introduced the Bitcoin for America Act. Americans will be able to pay federal taxes in Bitcoin with zero capital gains. That sounds interesting. Like, if you want to sell your Bitcoin and get rid of your Bitcoin without capital gains, use it to pay taxes. But I haven't been able to verify if this is true, but Merlin believes it is, and he's pretty good. And this could also help build up the SBR for the US and take more supply out of the market. How crazy is this story, CTO? Again, the capital gains aspect is very interesting. But again, who spends their Bitcoin?
Now, I'm not a tax expert, and especially not on US tax, but it sounds a little bit too good to be true that there will be no capital gains tax if you use the Bitcoin to pay the tax. I don't know. I haven't seen this before, but I mean, if it's true that you can in some way pay taxes with crypto, I think that would be fantastic. And it would be good for the tax authorities, actually, if they enable that. If they enable paying in crypto using whatever form, then people don't have the problem of how will they get the crypto out from the crypto ecosystem.
Exactly. Marty, you're always up on the legal stuff. What's your take?
Well, I mean, this all falls under budget neutral ways for not only US, but all sovereigns to accumulate Bitcoin, right? They're all trying to do it in budget neutral ways. They've explicitly said they're not going to print money to buy Bitcoin. That doesn't make sense. But so how are they going to do that? Well, the number one was seizures. And I think, the US has been seizing. They have 364,000. Most of that was seized. Almost all of it was seized. China had 194,000 they seized, which I believe they're selling. I believe they're under 100,000. They've sold over 100,000 Bitcoin. Their floor is 80,000. I know that for fact from Chinese people. And then we had obviously Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. They're all seizing.
We're still there for a second, Marty. You said their floor is 80,000. That's a very important point. We were kicking that around over the weekend. Repeat that again and explain it, please.
Okay, so the Chinese government is selling Bitcoin through Hong Kong foreign exchange brokers. And, it's available for whales. People are buying it up. And they've sold down, and their floor is 80. They won't sell lower than 80.
So they have an OTC desk now out of Hong Kong.
Yes, sir.
That's very important for people to listen to. I want to make sure it doesn't just gloss over that. Okay, carry on, sir.
No, very important. So there's other ways they can do it. Obviously, seizures and forfeited Bitcoin is the number one way that they accumulate, and they're doing it rampantly right now under the covers, all countries, the UK as well. They can revalue their gold certificates. We've heard about that before. That is not out of the realm of normality. That could happen. That could explain why gold is being manipulated up. That could happen. They can do partial conversion of other assets, tariff revenue, any way that they can accumulate Bitcoin in a budget neutral way they are doing. And this taxation plan falls right under that. So accepting taxation in Bitcoin, any way they can get their hands to accumulate Bitcoin, because ultimately I believe they're going to reprice Bitcoin and gold to back their $38 trillion of debt with at least 25 trillion once revalued.
Super interesting. And let's Fingers crossed. There's so many ways for a government to be creative, but the problem is they're very much stuck in their old ways and they don't move very fast. But again, this potentially has legs, or it's a dream list. Now, what everybody wants to know is, where are we with the current Bitcoin market? You could argue we're very close to 40% drawdown. As you know, when we get back to 80, if we get back to 80, that would be a bear market. The bear market in stocks is 20%. I always double it for crypto. But where are we? There's a lot of talk of 80K again. That would be the magical double bottom. We thought we could get back there 2 weeks ago. That didn't happen at all. There was some strength coming in. We just heard from Marty, 80K is the floor where the Chinese stop selling. The long-term holders mostly are from the old 5-year wallets, etc. They're pretty much done based on on-chain analysis. They're not going to be selling at the bottom. We have the historical fact that the price of Bitcoin at the eve of the presidential election, which is about 69, 70K, is also the floor for the next 4 years. So we have all this stuff. So where are we? Are we in a bear market? I'll go to you first, Mando. Are we in a bear market or not? I think it's probably we are. We've probably been in a bear market, definitely for alts, for the last 13 months now. Second of all, where do you see a floor? Is it 70? Is it 80? Or are we there now?
I'm not too sure if we're like in a full-on bear market yet. Let's put it that way. Like we've dropped, but this is, if it's a bear market, it's a shallow one so far. I think the clear level right now would just be based off on historic. So where we just hit, which is around 80K, hopefully we form a nice support level around there. Then it would be where we hit in March, April, which is kind of 73, 74K, I think. And then it would be longer term metrics, I think, like the 200-week moving average, stuff like that. For now, I'm just trading the market in front of me, and I would be so surprised if we go into like some horrific bear market with all the positive macro stuff that's gone on. Like I'm still bullish for 2026, but right now I'm just waiting to see. Which is why I'm not willing to just be like, oh my God, we're going to go into a horrific bear market for like a year or something like that. But I do respect the price action. And I think that the first thing you'd look to see is a bounce here at 80. Personally, I don't think we're going below 80 this year. So I think we'll bounce around that level.
Bullish take. And let's double tap on, again, reiterate the macro headwinds that have me on your page, Mando. We're heading back to ZERP circa March, April, May 2026. That means risk assets get bought up. QE is happening, whether you call it QE or stealth QE, it's happening, and more is going to happen. That's a simple fact of life. We've got the tokenization of the world coming in. We have the US trying to prop itself up using stable coins. I mean, tell me something negative, Mando, that you see for 2026 from a macro perspective or crypto perspective, because I can't find it.
The only thing would be if the AI trade unwinds, in my opinion. On a macro standpoint, like what's going on in the rates market, I agree with you. The monetary policy is going to get looser and looser. It's very, very clear with the new Fed chair as well. So I think that's turning more positive. On the fiscal side, they never really slowed down. Like the whole idea of Doge never really happened. Like we've still got massive deficits. So like it's still going to be strong there. And particularly a lot of money being pushed in Asian economies right now. China, I think, announced another 50 billion odd to go into their semiconductor industry today. And then you have it, and then you just, global M2 going higher for that same reason. It would just be if there is not enough value produced from AI, which again, I just don't see it. I I actually feel pretty comfortable with AI right now. I think Google is a great company and will lead that space now.
Yeah, and we'll go to the Bitcoin chart in a second. Thank you for that, Mando. CTO, we'll look at the Bitcoin chart, but I want to talk to you first about the AI trade and the very interesting point Mando mentioned. You know, if the AI trade blows up, what's going to happen? People will exit it, and then they'll rotate into the other asset, which is, the two narratives for me are crypto and AI. They've always been. It's been the same story. We have a situation where knowledge in 2025 so far has gotten 40x cheaper. And as we've covered before as well, there is infinite demand for knowledge. People will never say, no, I have enough knowledge. I'm good. I'm good. So what do you think about this AI trade? If it unwound, would people rotate into crypto? And what does the chart say?
Yeah, I think like if a massive asset class dumps, usually everything dumps in the moment, like in the acute phase. But if AI stocks start getting less interesting, I think like a medium term, people start getting interested in other sectors instead. So I think that's usually what we see. Like if anything dumps, everything is going to dump that day, like maybe that week. But then there could be a shift happening instead.
Yeah.
And
I
mean, it could happen. I mean, AI is not a bubble.
Yeah. And I did think that gold was getting toppy at around 3,200 or 3,300, but that's still chugging along.
Exactly. I also, it surprised many, including me, that it could go so far. So, I mean, it's interesting to speculate about what would happen, but exactly like Mando said, what has worked really well is just to react to what actually happens instead, and think, kind of worry less a little bit about why it's happening, and just that it's a fact that it does. So my bet is that in the same way as we could kind of smell the turnaround here or see the turnaround in the present when it happened, not as a prediction, but when it actually happened, I'm hoping that we will also see when it turns around in the other direction. If we're looking at the Bitcoin chart, then we had this sharp move down, and then we can argue if it started from here, or if it started from here, or if it started from here. It does matter a little bit, because it could set the target on the downside, because after this move down, we had this slight recovery here over the past couple of weeks, or it's almost a month actually. Unfortunately, the recovery is in the shape of a flag, which is then called a bear flag after a big move down. And it looks like it might be confirming here, and that sets then a pattern target, which is a bit lower than
nearly 70K, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So 70K around that. But again, it's not a prediction, and there's no real need to predict it either, because perhaps it bounces here. Okay, then we will see it. This level here is about 80K. We talked about it, and the reason that it's there is that it's been a very significant level. It's where it turned around in spring. It's where it turned around in March, in April. But there's also other reasons, like a neckline on a longer term pattern. So it could very well bounce here. Hopefully we will see it, and that would give some strength. But it could also be that this pattern plays out and it goes a little bit lower. So my plan here is the same as always. I don't try to predict so much, and I hope that I will be able to react instead when we see signs of a turnaround at whatever level that may be. Because and that's not like a useless conclusion, because I am certain that it will turn around at some point. The technology, Bitcoin as a concept, tokenization, blockchain isn't going away. So at some point, this will turn around. And previously, it's been possible to see it. It's been possible to see that the selling has stopped, it's building a bottom, and it starts going in the other direction. So that's my plan. That's what I hope to do. And I keep options open. It could be that it turns at 80K, could be that it turns at 70K, at whatever level it turns. I hope that I can identify it then.
Yeah, and we have some other stuff. Thank you for that, CTO. Marty, we have all the big banks, the PNCs, the Wells Fargos, the Bank of Americas, you name it, the JP Morgans, they're all getting into Bitcoin right now. A lot of the conspiracy theories are, well, they pushed the price down so they could fill their boots and then sell to retail later, their customers, and high net worth customers too. But these are more tailwinds that are coming. And I know for a fact there are people that missed out completely on the Bitcoin boat, and now they're waiting for that 70 to 80K entry. And then they go in force. Do you believe in that theory? And where is the floor for you? And are we in a bear market?
Yeah, I think the biggest news from last week that everyone missed is the OCC guidance letter 1188. The Office of the Comptroller in the US has now approved that banks, general banks, can engage in riskless principal crypto asset transactions under guidance. This means banks can act as crypto brokers like Coinbase. Okay, this is probably, I keep saying it on every show, this is probably the biggest news in crypto history once again, and no one's even talking about it. This is literally the most defining moment. This means that banks can be crypto brokers. They are allowed to handle crypto, custodian crypto, and this opens the door for, stable coin accounts at all US banks. This is mainstream adoption. And, then people say, yes, Marty, but why did the price go down? Understand that these banks like JP Morgan, et cetera, they're not buying the top. They make the bottom, okay? With every bullish news, you will get downward pressure. That's what happens with everything. It happened with Amazon, every stock. I was there in the beginning of Amazon. Every bullish news the reaction is downward pressure. Why? Because people long bullish news and because larger participants want lower entries. And so this OCC guideline, let me tell you now, is the defining moment for full crypto adoption, together with obviously Paul Atkins' unbelievable bullish and aggressive regulatory revamping. These two things are massive. So I think that ultimately, like Mando says, this asset class has never been fundamentally more valuable. The price is disconnected from the fundamentals. So if you're looking at the price to try and analyze the software, just stop doing that. There is no correlation until we have regulation. And then if you look at the large time frame, why am I so calm? I'm calm because I stick to my principle, and that is markets are run by market makers. The market makers will inject X amount of capital and then take back 50%. And that's what they do. They started doing that in 2024. They ran it up to 126. The 50% pullback of that is 76,500. The 800 EMA is 80,000. The Trump nomination presidency started at 70,000. The Chinese are not going to sell under 80,000. That's your number. We're going to the 50%. It happens on the micro scale, on the macro scale. That's the way this market works until it doesn't. So I think everyone, if you're waiting to get into crypto, start DCAing here, split it into 10 units, and go down to the 50%, and that's where you enter. If you're a trader, you're going to get wrecked on dead cat bounces at this point.
And a couple of things. Looking forward to 2026, I do. There was talk of the Mag 7 earlier. I think many of them are toppy, and many of them are struggling, and many of them are investing way too much in capex, in my opinion. Even they're investing at a rate where they're not be able to get the return from it, despite adoption in AI, and that's a big problem. And that tells me, okay, what happens if the Mag 7, excluding Tesla, because they have different stuff going on, is stagnant for 2026? Then the rotation will come back in. And remember, if 2% of Wall Street money goes into Bitcoin, it goes to $1 million. 2%. And you have Aladdin saying now recommending 3-4%. Bank of America 4%. Many of them soon will be recommending 5% allocation to Bitcoin. Craziness, Mando.
There's another big thing. One before we go, there's another big thing that people don't talk about, and I'm obsessing about these things because to me, the real things that are going on are not spoken about, and that is the Supreme Court case against Donald Trump's tariffs, which is in progress right now. It's concluding on January 15th, and it is a 180-day dispute window. If that fails, there's 180 days for countries to claw back their tariffs. These tariffs are trillions of dollars. It's hanging over all markets. No one talks about it. If it goes the way of Donald Trump and tariffs are legal, we will see a significant pump in all markets. If it goes the other way, we will see a pullback. All of these things add to the fear, once again. So if you look at that 180 days, it lines up very much with that sort of Q2, Q3, end of Jerome Powell. Everything is lining up to potentially be, the next bullish movement in the price. The technology has never been more bullish. Fundamentally, it is ready to go. It can run the digital dollar. It can back up the reserve currency of the USA. It can take over the petrodollar, the euro dollar. Bitcoin is the ultimate reserve. It's well tested. Everybody wants it. It's been welcomed by Wall Street. They're pretty much doing regulatory capture around it. The CME is now doing more volume in IBIT options than Binance. I mean, I've been talking about that for years. When will Wall Street dominate Binance? It's happening right now. All of this is happening right now. The only thing that's changed is the price. And I'll tell you again, price makes narrative. If the price goes up, the narratives will change. If the price goes down, the narratives will change. Focus on the important things, the technology and the regulation. That's all that matters. This thing will mark up at some point. It's not going to happen overnight. And when it does, it'll catch you by surprise. That's the way it works.
All right, Mark, let's talk liquidation levels here real quick.
Go ahead.
Upside or downside? To me, there's more hunting to be done, much more to the upside than to the downside from where we are right now.
Yeah, there we go.
And this
There
is
you
the
go.
magnet.
Look how that supports the 80K level.
Yeah.
See how it supports the 80K level, James? 80,891 is the end of the 10Xs.
Exactly. And that's all she wrote on that particular chart.
That's probably where we're going. That's where we're going. That's how it works.
Good stuff. Okay, let's move on with the story. We've got more things to talk about. One of them is, let me see. I got to get rid of this. Hold on. Stop sharing. Remove. Add to stage. There we go. Okay, we've got the floor. The floor is somewhere 78K. We've talked about China. Altcoins, Solana, Ethereum. This is important. People are so frustrated with crypto. You know, adoption is good. Fees are good. You've got dApps on Solana that are making 5 of them that make more money than Ethereum. But there's some Ethereum news coming, some upgrade rumors that they could take L2s, make them much faster. Again, we got that whole problem with L2s as well. But I can't remember what it was called, the Fukisaka upgrade or something.
Fukushima.
Fukushima.
I call it.
Let's see. We had the Solana Breakpoint conference, which was like, normally I make a video every day covering what's happened. This year, honestly, it wasn't very interesting. There was no big breakthroughs, unless, Mando, you picked up something that I missed, apart from the stuff that I talked about. And then there's a little bit of FUD too, that Solana validators have dropped sharply by 68% from 2,500 to 800. But Fire Dancer is being well adopted, which is kind of on the other side of that. Nearly 26.53% of validators are now using Fire Dancer, which means technically the chain can't go down because there's 2 code bases running it. Any thoughts on any of this? Mando, to you first. ETH, Solana, what's going on?
Yeah, Solana's had an okay week. I think most people like to buy it ahead of Breakpoint. So it was doing well up until then. It had been underperforming for a while. I agree with you. Like, the fact that Fire Dancer is live, that feels almost like we should have had that ages ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were talking about that a year and a half ago. It feels like, maybe even when I first joined the show. Like, Fire Dancer was spoken about for a long time. So that was like the main headline, but I don't think it was enough. And some of the apps, it was mainly DeFi apps saying, hey, we're going to do prediction markets, or we're going to do RWAs. I think I saw Camino and Jupiter both like fighting it out for that sort of stuff. What I'm looking at for Solana right now is this new proposal to reduce their inflation, which I think is probably going to be the biggest impact on price. Like, that is currently, I think, up for review. And there's some bullishness about that would get passed, which would, I think it would accelerate the chain's disinflation by 2x. So it would get to 1.5% tail inflation double as quick. If that passes, which I actually think could be in the next month or so, I think that would be a bullish headline and probably blow out some shorts in Solana, because I think it's still winning, obviously, the throughput debate. It's interesting to see that, like, how little meme coins now are really in the narrative around Solana. There was a good thing over the weekend, which is pointing to the idea that I think there are only 11% of Solana's transactions now meme coins. So huge reduction to what they used to be, which I think is very bullish for Solana as a longer term narrative. I look, I'm going to stick to my guns and say that I didn't really like this year for Solana. I do think next year can be much stronger, because I think hopefully then you get the ETF starting to whir into life, and that would be kind of what we saw with ETH. And also, if they get this inflation thing passed, plus let's say they continue to hit product market fit with some of the stuff that they do on chain, Solana dominates on apps, and this year has been the trend of apps winning versus L1s, let's say. So I do think that some of that will come back to Solana.
Exactly. And the more dApps and the more linkage. What did you think about that, CTO? Did you see the XRP bridging to Solana last week?
Yeah, I mean,
who cares?
Of course, yeah.
20,000
fundamentally, nothing has
4 million.
changed. It's Solana versus everything else. That hasn't changed at all. And then that's not reflected in the price. Maybe I can show the chart 1 second, just to sum up to everyone what has happened the past 2 years in one word, and it's nothing. Nothing has happened in 2 years. Here is February 2024. Soon we will be in February 2026. So after the big run-up, nothing has happened. It seems like a very wild range, but in altcoins, which it after all is, 100% is nothing. From top to bottom here, it's basically a doubling of the price. So it has been in 2 years in a range, and at one point it will break out. It's right at support exactly now. $127 is the support level. It's there right now. Either it breaks and then it could get brutal, or at one point it will break out on the upside, I think, and then it can really go places. So same thing there. I am watching this every day. Hopefully I can identify when the run starts. I did take some Gabble entries here at support, but it doesn't really move up to the top of the range. It's still sitting there at the bottom of the range. So I'm not going to hold that into loss, but it's at support right now. So I think everything we have talked about and thought about, it just hasn't been reflected in the price during this period. But at some point, hopefully it will.
And ETH has made a recovery, but the ETH ETFs aren't doing well. The Solana ETFs have been green every week since inception. What does ETH look like here? That's recovering. And as Mando said, it's holding up, like Solana and ETH are holding up better than Bitcoin these days.
I mean, I can talk on the Breakpoint a little bit.
Yeah,
I think it was I thought Breakpoint was probably more bullish than ever. So it's very contradictory. First of all, Firedancer went live. You can go look at the dashboard. It's GUI.firedancer.io. It's mind-blowing. It's been built to run internet capital markets and stablecoins globally. So that's what's going on. So you had Jeremy Allaire of Circle talking about trillions of stablecoin on Solana by the end of 2026. You had Anchorage, the number 2 custodian in the world of crypto, talking about stablecoin on Solana reaching trillions of dollars by the end of 2026. You had Visa announcing their full stablecoin settlement capabilities on Solana. You've got YouTube announcing they're going to offer creators the ability to get their royalties on PYUSD on Solana. You've got Wells Fargo announcing that they're going to do cross-border settlement using a Solana-based stablecoin. I mean, it goes on. JP Morgan is basically facilitating Galaxy Digital going full tokenizing their stock, their commercial paper, using USCP. That's JP Morgan. You've got State Street announcing with Galaxy Digital, announcing Sweep, tokenized liquidity fund. I mean, I think the news was never more bullish. So weird. I just think it's because the price, once again, dictates the narrative. Because the price is down, people ignore it, and all they do is look at the 30-second time in trading view chart. And you must understand this, the price is disconnected.
Yep.
It's the same old narrative. But the bullishness for Solana is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Now, the validator count has always been known, and the inflation has always been known. Solana has always, since beginning, had an inflation curve, to start out to stimulate the economy, which it did very well. And it's slowly going to diminish. And now there's, obviously, you've seen new proposals to cut it by 50%. And I think it'll be more and more aggressive because the network is pretty much launched. I think they don't need to have as much inflation as they do. And the validator count is just because there were, I think almost 800 to 1,000 validators that weren't ever even participating because they didn't have enough stake. And those have been removed. Those are just disappearing. So it's going to be probably, I would say, 750 to 800 primary institutional validators, as well as ecosystem validators. But you should expect that number, around 800.
Yeah. I think stablecoins could be a huge narrative as well for 2026, because even if you look at the adoption, the market caps of Tether and Circle, they're just going up and to the right very, very quickly. Any quick thoughts on stablecoin impact, CTO? Is that the fuel that increases the value of the whole crypto market cap?
I still think payment's going to be huge. I see all these companies working, Stripe, Klarna is in the game now as well, and everyone is doing something. they all see the cost-saving opportunity to carve out profits away from MasterCard and the other bank ecosystem to build a new system. And if you can, shave off 1% from all payments and still offer a cheaper service for the merchant. Most people have no idea how expensive it is because you don't see it as a consumer. If you never run a business, you don't know how expensive it is to collect the money. It's super expensive. So there's a huge opportunity there. That's why they're all going after it. Yeah. And that's going to come, guys. And then, of course, they changed the narrative. Like Klarna famously was quite against crypto. Then I think his name is Seb. He said that in the beginning of the year, like, oh, we were wrong about crypto. We should embrace it. And then they started building stuff and, doing stablecoin partnerships and so on and so forth. And I think everyone's going to do that.
Yeah, fintechs are jumping in with both feet, Stripe as well. One of the final stories today before we wrap, Bitcoin option selling market putting a lid on price. This is from Jeff Park, and he believes all the Bitcoin OGs in Wales are selling covered calls and Deribit and against IBIT, which is capping the upside during rallies and increases persistent selling pressure. Mando, you understand what this is about, as do I. Do you believe this suppresses volatility and upside with heavy call selling? And by the way, I'm here today because of call selling. I'm doing it my entire life. I love it. So tell us what you think. Is this crazy? From Jeff Park. You might be muted.
I saw that post from Jeff.
Hang on. I think you're muted, Mando.
Oh, sorry. I said I think this is 100% happening. I think a lot of the big holders are sitting on big unrealized gains, and this is a clear way to hedge. So the emergence of that market probably led to huge whales doing massive options trades, and then they can say that they didn't sell, but they've hedged their downside. So I think this is definitely happening. Definitely happening. And it's a very liquid market. It's very clear it's a very liquid market. So if you wanted to hedge any sort of amount quite cheap, I think you could.
Exactly. The IBIT volume is insane. And they can absorb anything. And that's another big part of the whole BlackRock play too. It's obviously their leading ETF moneymaker. But the option volume on those IBITs calls out of the money are to the roof. Marty, any quick thoughts on this theory from Jeff Park? True or not true?
No, I think it's true. Like I said, like you just said, the amount of open interest on IBIT and MicroStrategy now far outweighs Binance's daily open interest. So Wall Street has stepped up. They're taking over, and we're watching it play out in real time on the charts. I mean, no one really understands the dynamics until it's over of how it will affect the market. But it clearly is affecting the market, and it will continue to affect the market. All people, all the trading strategies don't work anymore. Everything is changing, and that's part of the game. I like this whole thing with the Kobakov, the Putin's advisor, right? And it's my thesis as well that the US is going to diminish their $38 trillion debt using stablecoin and crypto. Remember, we know that they're issuing 238 billion today and tomorrow in short-term 6-week to 24-week T-bills. We know that in the FOMC, they said they're not going to rebuy mortgage-backed securities. They're going to take all profits from mortgage-backed securities and all new issuance in T-bills. What is T-bills? T-bills are stablecoin. The US is running all their debt through stablecoins, running it through crypto, revaluing it and getting out of debt. And I kind of think that Kobakov is right. It's the same thesis I have. We'll see that play out.
Yeah. And we do have a hard stop in 5 minutes, so we will be ending in 5 minutes. There is one last little story, which is regarding Tesla. Everybody is now mesmerized with Tesla going up and to the right. I know there's a lot of EDS up there, but I follow everything Elon Musk says every single day for years and years. And a year ago, literally almost a year ago to the day, he said the brutal reality of the situation will hit like a tsunami towards the end of next year. That is now. And we saw a lot of breaking news. All the executives from Tesla were talking about the fleet is going to awaken, which basically is code for an over-the-air update will mean you can technically put your car into the fleet to be able to maybe drive your grandma home or stick it into the fleet as a robo-taxi or whatever the case may be. But the stock is gone up again, another $20 today, and it's been going up basically since 400 a couple of weeks ago. And this is a big part of what's happening before the end of the year, because funds, etc., are very underweight Tesla. Institutions are underweight Tesla, so they need to window dress before the end of the year. Mando, do you believe in the window dressing concept to be in position for next year?
I certainly wouldn't want to be short Tesla going into next year if I'm a cross asset money manager. So we've spoken about how sometimes trades accelerate into year end because people chase them. Or they reduce their positions in ones that have underperformed. I think that could happen here.
And I'll reiterate again, the simple part of this, which is Tesla's will very shortly, by April 2026, be in a position to make a car for $15,000 that generates $50,000 in profit a year. This is economics upside down that we've never seen before, a brand new infinite money glitch. CTO, what do you think of this autonomy AI world 2026? Is it crazy?
I'm very impressed by Tesla and all the projects that Mr. Musk has going on. It's very impressive. I hoped for some more irrational dump in Tesla, but we didn't get any. It was the chance when we talked about it in beginning of the year.
Yeah, a lot of time at $200. It's nearly 500 now.
Exactly. That was the last chance in April. It was right in March and April. Yeah. That was the last chance. Now it looks like it might be breaking out today here, and who knows? It's very, very impressive, and I just wish, I remember when we talked about it, I just wish we could have bought XAI when we first talked about it, James, when you brought it up first time.
Yeah, it was hard to get access to private markets. There was an opportunity on Hive for some stage, but now even bigger than XAI could be SpaceX with data centers in space. I mean, it's pretty clear that if you look at the Muskonomy today, it's $2.5 trillion in assets, $2.5 trillion. And Elon Musk owns 42% of SpaceX. His SpaceX bag could be more valuable than his Tesla bag. And that's a side hobby. Just think of the numbers and forget about it. I don't know what his ownership is in XAI, but it's probably close to 40% as well. Wild numbers. And then people have a lot of what Elon delusion syndrome, but they shouldn't have that. It's a very important player. Marty, final thoughts for you before we wrap.
Yeah, I mean, don't mess with South Africans, man. We're in a.
But he's not welcome in South Africa. He's not welcome there.
I think the effects on Tesla stock from the robotaxi launches are going to blow people's minds. It's a massive industry. I mean, it controls the gig economy. It's the future of food. It's of delivery, of everything, logistics. People putting their cars to work. I mean, I don't think we understand the effect. If there is a large market pullback, I will be a big Tesla buyer at any big discount I get. I think Tesla going into 2027 to 2030 is the stock to hold, in my opinion.
And this is funny. Like literally 99% of people do not understand Tesla. And you got people like Bear Wolfish. Tesla's a meme stock, untethered from reality. I mean, I try and explain it in the simplest terms for 5 years, and people still don't get it. But anyway, I don't care. I can't save everybody. I want to thank everybody. We got a hard stop here. Thank you all for coming, my friends. A quick thumbs up or thumbs down for next week in crypto. Mando, up, down, flat, up.
I think we're going to touch 80K. That's, but then I think we're going to rebound. So let's see.
Quick. The liquidity levels don't really show that. It's all done at that level, but we'll see if they jump in. A lot of people sometimes jump in. CTO, up, down for the week?
Trend is down, so I'm going to guess on down.
Okay. And Marty?
I think you shouldn't expect anything until around that 80,000 mark, that 800 EMA. We've just done the 50% pullback from the bottom wick, so we could go sideways, just like we did in March of 2025. The same way we did in March of 2024. It's a accumulation phase down here before the people that control the market decide to mark it up again and catch everyone out of the trade. Not everyone is short enough. They want people to be more short. They want to eliminate all longs and capitulate longs, and then they'll mark it up. And when that'll be, I don't know. We could get a Santa rally. Could be early January. But the money printer has begun. That's
Yep.
the good news. So we
means
could see
we're
some
strong.
front running of that for sure.
We've never seen a fifth year, call it year 5 of the Bitcoin cycle with the macro like this. That's very important. That's very unique. And my final thoughts for the week is just hang tight, everybody. Thank you all for coming. We'll see. Somebody asked, what is Muskonomy? That's all the Musk Industries, SpaceX, XAI, Tesla, Boring Company, Neuralink, one guy, 5 earth-changing companies. Thank you all for coming. Links below for these legends. Hang tough, my friends. And 2026, the end cap from this is 2026 could surprise people. Thank you, my friends. Have a great week.
Thank you, guys. Have a
guys.
good week.
Thank you.
Bye.